Hello, this is just the walkthrough for educators for the customer value analysis game that I've set up for you. When you open it, it'll come up to this very simple setup page. How many teams do you have, and do you want to rename the attributes? Now, I've kept the attributes fairly generic in terms of trust, experience, etc. So they're applicable for many industries. This is the only one that can't be changed. It's price profit, because profit and the margin needs to be built into the actual game itself. These are just attributes that you can change, and you can also change the number of teams. Now, if you add teams later on, you can't do that, so you've got to decide up front how many teams, anywhere from 2 to 10. And for example, if I show you, I've got some pretend results. There's only 5 teams in there. So if you add an extra team, or take one off, might be easier. Take one off, you'll see there's only 4 teams there now. So you'll need to decide that up front. But once you've decided that, you can leave this alone and just start the game. Okay, there's a decision sheet for students, and they will see that for each round, they have to enter a score from 1 to 10 for each of these. 1 is the lowest and 10 is the highest. That does not necessarily mean if it's a 10, it's the best for the segments, because underneath there are 4 segments that have different needs, but I'll get to that in a moment. And important, each team has a budget of 10 points per round. For round 1, all attributes are set to 1. So before this, everything is going to be 1. So this team here, by going to 3 points, have spent 2 points of their budget. By going to 2, they've spent another point. So they've actually spent 10 points. So if we go too many, you'll get this sign over, which means they're over budget. So that means when students are giving you their scores, you don't need to count them up. You just enter them, and it starts from 1 here, and then down here it'll go based on what's above. So this is round 2. I've just got some pretend data there. Again, if I put some big numbers in, you'll get this too many. So you don't have to worry about the calculation. That is done automatically for you. So I'll just reset that. You want to get all OKs along here. If you accidentally hit a 0 and forget to enter something, it'll say OK because the team hasn't spent the points. But when you go to the results, there'll be actually no results for team 3. And you go, okay, something's wrong there. Oh, okay, I missed the number there, so I'll put that back in. Okay, so everything's safe for you. You cannot type over the top of anything. If you try to, you're only allowed to enter here. And away we go. And just go round 1, 2, 3, all the way down. I've got some pretend data there, so that's why I'm getting some strange numbers, but as you'll work through. So as soon as you enter all the decisions, we then go off to the results. And you've got the teams there across here, and then you've got an average column there, which may be helpful for the students. But we're capturing round 1, 2, all the way down again. Again, I've got no data here, so whenever you see the divide sign, that means that no data has been entered. And we have sales of units, so numbers of sales, the market share based on units, revenue, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then market share based on revenue, costs, revenue less costs gives you profit, and then we have profit per round, so we've only had 1 round, so it's the same. Here we made 7 million in the first round, and then 5, we get to now 12 million, and then they're ranked in terms of 1 to 5, so the leading team, 8.8 million is team 2 at that stage. So the winning team is the one that makes the most profit across all rounds and ends up ranking number 1. So the ranking is based on all rounds. Okay, let's talk about revenue and costs. So revenue is based on, over here, they're making a decision based on how much profit margin they want. So the revenue is based on the unit sales that they're getting, and then there's a multiplier in the game based on this. So they can go from 1 to 10. So the greater the margin, but it also represents that it may not be as valuable. So let's just copy and make two teams identical so you can see what happens here. Let's ignore that because we're only looking at round one. If we look at the results, currently these two teams are identical. Okay, so I'm going to now increase that to 4, so they have a greater margin. Okay, we'll come back over here and we can now see that their profit is higher. They actually got better sales and a greater margin. But if they go too high, they might be able to do this. I just bring the game will still run. Okay, you're over budget, but it'll still run. But just show you what will happen. Okay, so their sales are a little bit less now, but their margin's still quite high. And if we went all the way to the maximum, we can see that Team 1 has better sales because they offer better value. But because these guys have got a better margin, they're making a little bit more money. So you've got to play, the students have got to play with that as well. And then finally, here the costs. The costs are an algorithm based on how many points we have. So to start with, you can see the costs, they're a little bit lower in cost. But if I was to increase all of these, okay, what we'll see that their costs appear to go lower, but you can see because of this, the way they've structured the product, it's not as attractive. They have dropped significant in sales, so their cost per unit is actually quite high, and you can see what's happened to their profit. So the costs is a combination of these. Okay, so it scores those points, creates an algorithm, and creates a cost per unit, and their profit margin is unit sales times a variation of that number. Okay, so that's what's happening there. I will just quickly reset this. So I've just typed in some random numbers to make sure the budget's okay. So your results there. Shares and fit to needs are the most important things for your students. This tells you there's 4 underlying segments. They all have preferences for the design of the attributes. So they're all seeking something different, a different combination of these 6 attributes. And the students can tell that by looking at the market shares. Again, they go all the way down, and when you don't have data, you get these errors here. But you can see Team 1 is doing about 10% per segment, so they're not standing out. Team 2 is doing much better, but they have a very strong on segment 1. And segment 2, they're all strong across the board. Team 3 doing well in segment 2 and 3, and Team 5 is doing well in segments 3 and 4. So the students can then go back and say, okay, Team 5, they're doing well in those segments. What are they doing? So this design is very good for those later segments. So that's one way they can do it. The better way they can do it is this tab here called Fit for Needs. And this is a much longer one because this is all round 1 there. And I'm just going to come down, then we've got round 2, and we're doing it by segment and each of the attributes. So what this is saying is Team 5, they're doing well in segments 3 and 4. So you can see they're right on the money for the right profit margin. They've got a good attribute for channel choice and for customer experience. And the same thing here for segment 4, trust and experience. So let's just change one of those numbers. So that's in round 3. So let's make transit trust 4, and we'll make that 5. Come back to fit for needs. Okay, and this has changed slightly. Okay, so let's got those two there, strengths and strength for segment 4 in Team 5. We'll come back over here. I will change this dramatically, it'll go over budget. They were both strengths before, and now they're both weaknesses. Okay, we'll come back over 6 and 4. I don't know what the numbers are because they're sitting in the algorithm I built before, and now they're neutral and a weakness. Okay, so if I reset them to what they were, 7 and 4, they were strengths before, so I'll make them maybe 3 and 8, and then they're major strengths. So by the students playing around with the algorithm, obviously they won't have the spreadsheet, but over time what they can do is go, okay, that's a major strength, that works well for that segment, for that attribute. Okay, if I want to target segment 2 for product choice, I need to be there. So this team 1 for segment 2 is doing very, very well. So team 1 in segment 2 has got major strengths, major strengths, major strengths. They're doing well, but then they've got 2 weaknesses. So we have a look at their shares. They only got 10% share in segment 2, but they know their problems are here. So let's just change those 2. So round 3, let's make that a 6 and make that an 8. Come back over here. I've taken them from weaknesses to a strength in neutral, and then we can see our market share has actually jumped to 17%. If I go back and unwind all that, their share was 10%. So they can play around with this over time by gathering information from the shares, gathering information from this. So as the person running the game, what you'll need to do is when you get their decision sheets, put this up. We can just say to them, can you confirm that these are the right decisions? Because there's always some team that goes, oh, it was a 5, not a 2 when I wrote it down, and you've typed it in wrong or something like that. You only need to type in these numbers, get them to confirm that, then show them the results, and they go, oh, fantastic, we're coming first or last or whatever. And then throw this up because this is relatively simple, and they can actually copy this down and they can maybe take a photo of it or something. And then I would leave this one up because it's a lot larger, and you can make that a little bit smaller so it fits in if you need to. Or you can just put the first 2 segments up and then scroll down to the next few segments. So hopefully that's helpful for you, and good luck with the game.